Hello, hello. Okay, here we go, bros. Sorry about that. Somewhat. It's sitting there trying to find out some shit on TikTok. Says nothing till Trump gets inaugurated Monday tomorrow. So I mean, I guess it is what it is, huh? Man, we really won't know nothing till Monday. I don't guess. No. What was that? Oh, that's you. Oh, you're just now reading it, huh? Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Potential damage. Okay, what we got on this one? 500 as cathedral and hit ribbons or cause flooding torpedoes. Okay. That's 1,000. One battle cause 6,000 damage. Okay. 8,000 basic. 3 missions. Special task. I don't know. Now, get this. Okay. So, oh, wait a minute. See what I should be doing. That's going to be down to randoms. Link to others are going to be down to randoms now. Okay, so randoms it is. We'll play the super ships. Why not? Because we can. Okay. So random. We go with tandem. We looking for random. Baby, come back. Well, okay, let's see what you wrote, Jerem.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Awaiting instructions.
Enemy force detected. Autopilot mode disabled. Autopilot mode enabled.
All right.
I need intelligence data.
Why is her to her mama raised a dummy, but to her mama?
Autopilot mode disabled. Enemy destroyed.
Oh,
Our team has taken the lead.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Autopilot mode enabled.
I got power.
Destination reached. Autopilot mode disabled.
All right.
Our team has taken the lead.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Spotter airborne.
Well, we're down to one. I don't think one's going to come back and beat us. Chimichanga. Oh. We won. Oh, we got you. Oh. use the. Let's go ahead and buy. Add that one. Do it again. Let's do it again. Play it again, Sam. Play it again. Yeah, I'm okay. Love you, girl. Oh, my heart. I love you so, so, so much. I plumb forgot about the test server. I mean, I really had. I hate I did, but I did. Now I'm gonna end up harder,
Action stations.
Autopilot mode
Really,
enabled. I could not do it.
instructions.
And I just wouldn't get the community tokens. I mean, but I do get a chance of getting ships out of the community tokens. So, I mean, it's well worth doing it. It doesn't take that long. An hour or two, I should be able to have it completely. I'll get the big majority of them, hopefully, anyway. So.
Spotter airborne.
As long as I get those,
Enemy force detected.
should be in reasonably good shape.
Enemy cruiser detected. Enemy battleship detected. to ship. Enemy cruiser destroyed.
Oh, that hit me from. Oh, I see.
Autopilot mode disabled.
The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir. Enemy battleship detected. Enemy destroyer detected. Enemy cruiser sighted. The ship is on fire. The ship is on fire.
Yes. That wasn't good.
has taken the lead.
Let's see. Wait a minute, bros. Yeah. Okay, dudes. Adam Schiff is a proven liar. Okay, let's hear it, Marjorie.
Your debt, we can help. Visualize your debt picture.
There's a lot of things that happen here in Congress, and many of them waste the American people's hard-earned tax dollars. But one of the most outrageous waste of hard-earned tax dollars has been the Russian collusion hoax led by Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff lied to the American people by leading the fake Russian witch hunt against President Trump. He weaponized the House Intelligence Committee to abuse all principles of due process and perpetuate the lies of Russia collusion. And he did that on the media over and over again. His committee conducted approximately 53 interviews during its 2017-2018 Russia probe. These transcripts from the Director of National Intelligence, former Obama Attorney General, former Deputy Attorney General, and the FBI Director, among others, proved that there was zero direct evidence of criminal conspiracy. He not only refused to release these interview transcripts, but he also continued to peddle lies to the American people that Russia interfered in the election. He falsely claimed that Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help. And the president made full use of that help when referring to allegations between President Trump and Russia during the 2016 election. In November 2020, he specifically asked Twitter to take action against spreaders of misinformation by removing content that questioned his baseless claims of Russian collusion. The biggest spreader of misinformation was Adam Schiff. As we know, the Mueller report determined there was no criminal collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. Thanks to the Durham report, we know now the entire Russian hoax was bought and paid for by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. During the probe, Schiff also abused his position on the Intel Committee and violated civil liberties by subpoenaing phone records from AT&T and a former Republican colleague on entirely baseless claims. His lies and abuse of power continued during the sham. Hollywood produced January 6th committee witch hunt, where him and his staff doctored a text message between Representative Jim Jordan and former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows to deliberately manipulate information presented to the American people. What a lie. He displayed a graphic of a text message which cut a sentence in half and eliminated the final two paragraphs of a detailed legal summary that were contained in the original text message. He did this to peddle more lies to the American people and perpetuate the fake narrative that January 6th was an insurrection, and it was not. And now Adam Schiff is running for Senate.
Gentlewoman yields to...
Thank you.
How much time?
Good luck and fair seas.
One more minute.
1 more minute. Gentlewoman's recognized.
Thank you. And now Adam Schiff is running for Senate in California. Now, California has a lot of things messed up, and California is not the model that the United States needs. As a matter of fact, their government policies are atrocious. So if California decides to send Adam Schiff to Senate, they will be sending a proven liar, and that's what he's aiming to do. Raise money off of being a liar and running for Senate. I yield back the remainder of my time. On January 21st, 2021, I introduced articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. And less than 2 weeks later, I was kicked off.
When I started drinking salt water for my gums, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how fast my smile was...
Ms. Bondi, as you know, the Supreme Court in Trump versus United States held the president has absolute immunity to commit crimes in certain core areas of the president's responsibility. One of those core areas is the Justice Department. So in a breathtakingly dangerous and irresponsible decision, Justice Roberts and the majority held the president could commit crimes using the Department of Justice and be immune from prosecution. Justice Sotomayor correctly said this new immunity lies about like a loaded weapon. So the fear and the concern we have is that the incoming president will use that loaded weapon, that immunity, to commit crimes through the Department of Justice. And for that reason, it is all the more important that we have an attorney general who has the independence, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to say no to the president when it is necessary. So my first set of questions has to do whether you have the independence to say no when you must say no. And you can say this is hypothetical, but it is not hypothetical. So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said Jack Smith should go to jail. Will you investigate Jack Smith?
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a factual predicate to open an investigation of Jack Smith, isn't it?
Not a summary by you sitting there. Yes, sir.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith. Is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case. You know,
and sitting here today.
Senator, 72% of
please,
Americans
I only have
have
7
lost
minutes.
faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that question. You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging
I'm sitting
law
here as a
enforcement
nominee.
sensitive information. So just tell us, are you aware? Just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news
Are
is
you aware of
horrible.
a?
Do I know if
you seem
committed a crime?
reluctant.
I have not.
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that.
No, it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one
Based
has
on what
asked
you
me
know.
to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a hypothetical.
The president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president
Liz.
has
We're
called-
also
the
worried about
president-
Liz Cheney,
the
Senator.
president has
You know what
called
we
for
should
this-
be worried about?
Ms. Bondi,
the
please
crime rate
answer
in
my
California
questions.
right now
You are
is
aware,
through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
Your robberies
Ms.
are
Bondi,
87%
my
higher
question-
than the national
my question
average.
is this.
That's what I
My
want to
question
be
is this.
focused on, Senator.
Do you have the
if I'm
power to
confirmed
say
as
no to the
Attorney
president?
General.
And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't
I'm just
do it.
asking you a simple
I
question.
won't play
If you can
politics
speak truth
with any
to
ongoing
power.
investigation.
So let me ask you another.
Like you did leaking your colleague Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election? Yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election? Yes or no? Was there
I
or
can
was there
tell
not?
you what I saw when I went
That's
as an
not my
advocate
that's
to
not
the
my
campaign.
question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case.
so
Let me finish. On a case-by-case basis.
Okay, good.
And I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President? I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files
And
for
will
the
you be able to
pardons, as well
will
as
you
the
be able to
ongoing
review
investigation.
hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am asked to look at.
Of course you won't. So will you advise the president?
Can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I
is-
would have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen, I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first day?
mislead this body, nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You
another
were
question.
censured by
It will
Congress,
also-
Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
it
are
will
so
also, It will also be important for you to be able to preserve the records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do
department.
you see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question? Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're frightened?
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe
Why do you
you're
have
asking such a
difficulty?
question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice? Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Forget Uber. Let me show you how to tap into an app that's grown almost 4,000% in just 2 weeks. It's called Audible Uploads. But first, I'm Christian Mickelson, and our company, Publishing.com, was named the 19th fastest growing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bundy, I know that you are pleased that we are to the end of round one. And we appreciate your being here. And I appreciate that you told my California colleagues you were willing to work with them, even in light of the manner in which they have approached you. Now, one thing I think we need to have everybody understand that is watching this hearing today, and everyone sitting in here, what we have witnessed over the last 4 years with a weaponized DOJ. My colleagues have talked about this, and the American people know this. They know what was carried out against President Trump and his administration, and in November, they voted to see an end to 2 tiers of justice, 2 tiers of treatment, 2 tiers of access, because they have absolutely who were just seeking to live their lives, and then all of a sudden found the FBI or another federal agency or the DOJ knocking at their door. You know, Ms. Bundy, it would make you believe that my colleagues have learned nothing from the elections in November. They don't see this as a movie script that someone may have liked to write. What they see is this is real life. And they want a restoration to equal justice, equal access, equal treatment, abiding by the rule of law. Many of us have talked today about making America safe again. And in Tennessee,
in 2020, when a chairman of an intelligence committee misrepresented that a laptop owned by then candidate Biden's son was somehow a Russian intelligence operation, and 51 former intelligence officials used the imprimatur of IC authority to go along with that. I stood in the breach. I stood alone and told the American people the truth about that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Ratcliffe, thank you for your opening comments. I appreciate your comments about technology. I appreciate your comments about independence of the workforce. I appreciate actually the chairman asking this as well. I want to come back to a couple of these topics because there is concern in the community. I hear it. You may have heard it. When we hear statements by incoming administration officials, and occasionally even from the president-elect himself, attacking the intelligence community and threatening to replace long-term career civil servants if they are somehow deemed as not sufficiently loyal. You've addressed this, but I want to address it again right now. What assurances can you provide to this committee and to the CIA workforce that you will resist efforts to fire or force out career CIA employees because of their perceived political views or somehow their views of loyalty to the president?
Well, I think the best example of that, Mr. Vice Chairman, is if you look at my record and my record as DNI, that never took place. That is never something anyone has alleged, and it's something that I would never do. So I would approach this position very much the same way and provide the same assurance.
Like, again, I think there has been, a lot has happened in the last 4 years since your prior service. There have been these comments. I would again, if you are asked to remove personnel, to get rid of individuals based upon this kind of political litmus test, I'd ask that you keep the committee informed of those requests.
I certainly will.
Same thing, and again, I appreciate the chairman raising this as well. Most important job for you, for the folks at the CIA, speaking truth to power. And I want to again reiterate the question Senator Cotton raised. You've got to make sure that your analysis is objective, it's not politically influenced. We've got to make sure it's timely. This willingness to speak truth to power, even if it's uncomfortable, I would like you to speak to that again.
Vice Chairman Warner, I appreciated the opportunity for you and I to visit, and as you recall, this issue came up, and I was grateful then, and we'll take this opportunity to talk about what my record is in terms of speaking truth to power. If you recall, we talked about the fact that as a member of Congress, I was the individual who was outside the Judiciary Committee in 2019 listening to the former FBI Director Jim Comey say that my line of questioning was political, that the idea that intelligence authorities at the FISA court being abused couldn't possibly happen, was a bunch of nonsense. But I had reviewed those applications, and I knew that I was speaking truth to power, and the Inspector General and the subsequent FBI Director later confirmed that under oath. To that point, Director Wray this week in his exit interview said that China was the defining threat of our generation. I wrote that and said that 4 years ago as DNI, and when I did, I was accused of being political, but I wasn't. I was speaking truth to power. I wasn't outsizing the threat from China. In 2020, when a chairman of an intelligence committee misrepresented that a laptop owned by then candidate Biden's son was somehow a Russian intelligence operation, and 51 former intelligence officials used the imprimatur of IC authority to go along with that, I stood in the breach. I stood alone and told the American people the truth about that. So I think my record in terms of speaking truth to power and defending the intelligence community and its good work is very clear. And what I can assure you is those types of instances, if I'm in that position as CIA director and have to do that again, as uncomfortable as that can be, to be accused, the truth will ultimately defend itself, and I think that intelligence will as well.
And the truth will defend itself, even if that truth is counter to the views of a current administration. It will, at the end of the day, it has to be back to the truth. I got time for one last question. As you well know, our intelligence community is the best in the world, but we also receive enormous amounts of benefit from our partners around the world. We've got to make sure, and obviously the president has the right to declassify information, but we've seen that willingness to declassify in advance of the Putin's brutal attack on Ukraine used effectively. But as we think about that declassification, particularly if it's done below the presidential level, making sure we consider the sources and methods of our allies, there's no requirement that intelligence is shared. This is based on a trust relationship. I'd like you to briefly speak to making sure that we maintain that trust relationship with the very valuable information we see from our allies and partners around the world.
Well, I agree completely. As DNI, I was able to experience what you just said. We do have the best intelligence enterprise in the world, but we have great partners around the world that we work with to do great things to improve not just our national security posture, but theirs. And that is reliant upon mutual trust and respect for intelligence sharing between intelligence agencies. And as CIA director, if confirmed, I'll understand that improving our national security posture and protecting the American people will be absolutely dependent upon maintaining those relationships and maintaining that trust.
I also, one quick thing I want to mention was, I appreciate your answer to Senator Heinrich's question about appearance here. I think we do have a unique situation in America where we have public congressional oversight. I think it's critically important to help restore that trust, and I appreciate your commitment to appear and testify. And this topic I'm going to raise in closed, but I wanted to also at least get you out, get you on the opening. I think you will. Senator Cotton, the chairman pointed out a number of times when the IC didn't get it right over recent times, and I think, I'm not sure we'll ever get an all-seeing IC, but one area that I've been particularly concerned about is the ability for the IC to monitor technology advancement. I think historically that has not been the case. You know, we've told our spies to go spy on the military or foreign governments, but we see repeatedly, as we think about this technology competition, particularly with China, and I can cite chapter and verse from CIA getting it wrong about how SMIC was going to be able to move to lower level semiconductors or smaller semiconductors, area after area.
The ship is on fire.
I think under Rebecca Burns' administration, we've moved the enterprise some. I think we've still got a lot more to do, but I did want you in this public setting to weigh in on your thoughts on how it is absolutely critical that the CIA is able to not only look at our adversaries in terms of government and military presence, but clearly in this technology competition and how we have to up our game in terms of collection.
Yeah, agree 100% completely. You talked about it, Senator, earlier in terms of, military threats are one thing, but, as you know, I believe, for instance, the NSA, we have the best code makers and code breakers in the world, but if China gets to quantum computing before we do, that causes a real problem. We've got to win the war, the race on technology, stay ahead of the technology curve, and part of that is when we talk about technology as a tool and a target is we've got to disrupt. CIA has to play a really important role in disrupting our adversaries' technologies in terms of trying to get ahead of us. So you mentioned semiconductors. We all know that the issue that relates to Taiwan, and that 95% of advanced semiconductors are there, and we're trying to address those supply chain issues. But we can do things, and the CIA must do things to disrupt how our adversaries are dealing with their.
Worst breakfast for your waistline.
Oatmeal's healthy, right?
There's nothing good in oatmeal. Most oats cross-react with gluten, and almost all oats in the United States have glyphosate.
All got here. They made false allegations about a telephone call. The President of the United States declassified that telephone call and released it to the public. How's that for transparency?
I need intelligence data.
When Mr. Schiff found out that there was nothing to his allegations, he focused on the second telephone call. He made false, and his colleagues made false allegations about that second telephone call that occurred before the one he had demanded. So the President of the United States declassified and released that telephone call. Still nothing. Again, complete transparency in a way that, frankly, I'm unfamiliar with any precedent of any President of the United States releasing a classified telephone call with a foreign leader. When Mr. Schiff saw that his allegations were false, and he knew it anyway, what did he do? He went to the House and he manufactured a fraudulent version of that call. He manufactured a false version of that call. He read it to the American people, and he didn't tell them it was a complete fake. Do you want to know about due process? I'll tell you about due process. Never before in the history of our country has a president been confronted with this kind of impeachment proceeding in the House.
Dash it all.
It wasn't conducted by the Judiciary Committee. Now, Mr. Nadler, when he applied for that job, told his colleagues when they took over the House that he was really good at impeachment. But what happened was the proceedings took place in a basement of the House of Representatives. The president was forbidden from attending. The president was not allowed to have a lawyer present. In every other impeachment proceeding, the president has been given a minimal due process. Nothing here. Not even Mr. Schiff's Republican colleagues were allowed into the SCIF. Information was selectively leaked out. Witnesses were threatened. Good public servants were told that they would be held in contempt. They were told that they were obstructing. What does Mr. Schiff mean by obstructing? He means that unless you do exactly what he says, regardless of your constitutional rights, then you're obstructing. The president was not allowed to call witnesses. By the way, there's still evidence in the SCIF that we haven't been allowed to see. I wonder why. No witnesses. Now let's think about something else for a second. Let's think about something else. They held these articles.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, so I saved hundreds. But the money I saved, thought I'd get a wax figure myself.
The Democrats have politicized our intelligence committee. You've watched it year after year since Adam Schiff has become chair. No, he doesn't warn us about Ukraine or Afghanistan or what's happening around the world. He tells you about politics. But the worst part of it is you cannot trust what he tells you, that he lies to us. Just watch what has happened. 2 years ago, Schiff stated the emails found from Hunter Biden were whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin. That's what the head of the intel said. But if you recall, Jonathan Turley has an article written, I believe, in October 2020.
Yeah.
After Schiff said this to the American public. And remember, the election's in November. But the director of national intelligence, John Radcliffe, said no, that's not the case. That there is no intelligence out there to base it upon what Adam Schiff, as the chair of the Intel Committee, was telling the country. And what did we just find out yesterday from the New York Times?
Yeah, what we found out?
Yes, it is Joe Biden's laptop. And yes, Adam Schiff lied to us one more time. Why is he still chair of the committee? And why is he even on the committee? In a new Congress, if it's a new majority, he will not be. You cannot make this committee political. You cannot use it as a position of a chairman to lie. And you should be focused on what the American people want you to be focused on around the world. How did you miss Afghanistan collapsing? How did you miss Ukraine? How have you missed every single part? Why? Because you're out lying about an impeachment and everything else. That's not your job. That's not your role.
Autopilot mode enabled.
And we should be able to trust the chair of the Intel Committee to be honest with the American public, regardless of what political realm is in. So if the question is, does she have problems in the ranks? Yes. The question is, do the new socialist Democrats run the party? Looking at their agenda for the first 3 months, the answer is yes. No budget. More bills on the floor but haven't gone through committee. That's not the people's house. That's not for the people. The agenda they laid out, they haven't been able to produce. And now they have a chairman of the Intel Committee, where we go to protect Americans around the world and our own nation, lie to the American public for the last 2 years. It's not me saying it. It's a Mueller report saying it.
Yeah.
He doesn't apologize, and the Speaker allows him to stay as chairman. That is unacceptable. Not from a point of a Republican, but from a point of the Republic.
Right.
We want to know we're safe. We want to know we can trust what comes out of that committee. He has no ability to produce his job when every single member on the other side said, I can't stand for you to stay as chair. And to equate that any way with Congressman Devin Nunes is wrong. Devin Nunes was proven correct. That's what the report says. Today in that hearing, every single Republican signed a letter that this chairman, they have lost confidence. They do not believe, no matter what they work on, that the American public can trust them. This is not a committee that's set by a steering committee. One person alone decides who sits on that committee for the Democrat, and one person who decides on the Republican side, me. It's now up to Nancy Pelosi to remove Chairman Schiff. The idea that you would have a chairman of a committee of this nature, the work that is involved in this committee, that would lie to the American public, not apologize, but use the tactics of Senator Joe McCarthy to attack his own members. There's nothing that could come from this committee that can be trusted. It is time to turn the page. The Democrats have wasted their majority. Or does Adam Schiff truly believe he knows something more than Mueller? That 40 FBI agents, 19 attorneys, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 witnesses, looking into 13 different countries and saying no collusion at all? He needs to resign from the committee. There is a difference here drastically. One member lied to the American public, one member told the truth and was attacked for it. Now that the truth is told that Chairman Nunes was correct, and where truth is told that Adam Schiff lied to the American public, continue to lie up until March of this year. Now, I think Speaker and I should get together and remove Schiff. She doesn't need me to get together with her to do it. She can do it today. And he is chairman of the Intel Committee. This is the committee that sees things that the majority of members do not get to know. How can you trust that individual? He has an entire one side of the committee that has no trust in him at all. How can he research anything? How can we stand up against our enemies and trust what is being done if Adam Schiff lied to us for 2 years? How can their own Democrats stand behind what he says? He didn't even apologize. Does he think he knows more?
Did you know that the most dangerous prayer you can ever pray is only 3 words? If you skip this healing prayer, God will skip you too. The universe says that whoever is watching...
Then Mueller? Yes. We've watched somebody in this body do this before. Senator Joe McCarthy, who had a gavel, who accused people of communism. When people stood up to him, he attacked them, their own members. We made a commitment in Congress that we would not allow that to continue. The Democrats are allowing that today, and one person can change all that, and that's the Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I take my duties as Wyoming's lone congressional representative very seriously, and my obligation to be honest and trustworthy is the foundation of my ability to carry them out. This privileged resolution isn't about politics. It is about the seriousness of being honest and forthright as a member of Congress and upholding the oath of office that we all take upon being sworn in. It is true that the gentleman from California wouldn't be the first member of Congress to exaggerate or stretch the truth, but willfully lying about serious issues our country has faced is something entirely different. And claiming that a sitting president has committed what amounts to treason is beyond simple hyperbole. This member's lies led to the wasting of millions of taxpayer dollars for unnecessary investigations and the deflection of our attention from the most pressing issues at hand to focus on a made-up crisis. This member's actions were designed to delegitimize the 2016 election and to hamstring the Trump administration. For all the talk about not accepting the election results in 2020, perhaps Democrats and the media, which are mostly one and the same, might want to look at their actions in 2016. To make matters worse, this representative perpetuated these lies while he was chair of the House Intel Committee and consistently implied, if not outright stated, that he had inside information. In that capacity, he lied about how the FBI and DOJ obtained and renewed a FISA warrant. The FBI and DOJ officials did not omit material information from the FISA warrant. How the DOJ used the Steele dossier, what was collected via the FISA warrant, the FBI's vetting process for the Steele dossier, that he had an alleged smoking gun showing that President Trump colluded with Russia, and if each of these claims has proven to be false. But the lies have continued. In fact, they have become compulsive, and they continue right through to this very day. The lies weaken this body, and if left unchecked, threaten the rule of law, our election integrity, and the civil rights of his targets. The words and actions of this member were dangerous and untrue, knowingly untrue. There must be a serious consequence for that. Being censored is the least of what he should be subjected to, and I support this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to my colleague Anna Paulina Luna for leading on this very important issue. Adam Schiff is a complete disgrace to our nation and to our Constitution. He put the American people through 4 years of an endless impeachment hoax that he knew from the beginning was a lie. He represents the worst of permanent Washington, using his position of trust to lie to the American people. He received intelligence briefings that other members and the public did not have access to. And he used this position of trust to lie and to advance his own partisan agenda. Schiff's disgraceful time in Congress has destroyed Americans' faith in our institutions. Today, I am proud to stand with my colleague and friend from Florida, Anna Paulina Luna, to try and undo some of the damage that Adam Schiff has done by finally holding this crook accountable. Today, we are saying enough is enough by censuring him, and referring him to the Ethics Committee. I told the American people that he had to prove that he had proof that the Trump campaign asking the Russians for help in a conspiracy. That was a lie. He claimed that he was not working with anonymous informants during the impeachment hoax. That was a lie. Everyone with common sense knew that Adam Schiff was lying all along, including the Director of National Intelligence, Obama's former Attorney General, the FBI Deputy Director, and more. But Adam Schiff doubled down on his big lie, claiming he had a smoking gun, proof of a conspiracy. But the only conspiracy going on was his conspiracy to defraud the American people by taking down their duly elected president.
4 minutes to Representative Boebert.
Gentlewoman's recognized.
When Adam Schiff got caught lying, he did what all liars do and tried to cover the truth even more. He even used his taxpayer-funded staff to ask Twitter to censor journalists fact-checking his lies. But Adam Schiff won't get out of this one by calling in a favor. Today, we are holding him accountable and censuring him for his lies to the American people. To restore the trustworthiness of the House of Representatives, every member should vote to censure Adam Schiff so that we can speak with one voice to assure the American people that these lies will not be tolerated. I urge every one of my colleagues with good and decent intentions to vote for this resolution. If Adam Schiff has a shred of human decency left, he would resign from Congress in disgrace. His tombstone should read of his failed career in Congress and should be one word: liar. I yield back.
When I first started assembling this little device to make water out of thin air,
Mr. President, it's 4 days until President Trump will be inaugurated for the second time as President of the United States. That means we only have 4 more days of President Biden's absentee leadership. But he seems to be making the most of his final days as he goes out the door, and he certainly isn't letting it kick him on the way out. I think the most egregious example of the abuse of power, really, that President Biden is engaged in now that the election's over and he doesn't have to stand for a vote among the American people, so he pretty much has given him a thumb in the eye. Perhaps one of the most egregious examples of this was his pardon of his son Hunter on December the 1st of last year. Despite numerous efforts by the FBI and DOJ to protect Hunter Biden for the accountability for his crimes, President Biden decided to attack his own Department of Justice and say his son was selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Well, it's hard to imagine someone thinking they were unfairly targeted when entire government agencies did everything they could to protect him from coming to justice. And thanks to a diligent and careful judge who was able to expose a sweetheart deal that would have exonerated Hunter Biden previously. So he was convicted of illegally possessing a firearm, and he stood charged with massive tax fraud. President Biden said time and time again, "I promise I'm not going to pardon him." And then he turned around and he did. But he didn't stop there. He used this last day of his office to go on.
Today's his last day. Today's Biden's last day as president. That's it. It's over. Donald Trump will be inaugurated at noon tomorrow. Yep. We have a 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Long live the king. Oh, Lord.
I've been receiving checks from Charles Schwab on a weekly basis. Let me show you. Here are a few of the checks that I received.
This MTA security video. Armed homeless people invaded New York City subways.
Video shows a group of 5 men on a Manhattan-bound 7 train. 2 of them stole bags from a sleeping 69-year-old passenger and a fight starts.
So this is just the latest in a string of armed altercations involving homeless people in the New York City subway. Incidents which often start underground but end in the emergency room. And now that this crime surge has been going on for the last 4 weeks and counting, New Yorkers are starting to doubt whether or not our leaders are keeping the subway as safe as they claim they are. Because to many people, it sure seems like this entire network of trains and stations is just getting more dangerous every single day.
From the Union Square subway station to the Uptown number 2 train and the E train at Columbus Circle. Unnerved riders coming face to face with unstable people.
It's really unfortunate. People can't travel, they can't take the train or a bus, and they have to always look over their back.
Mental health crisis, and it doesn't seem to be being dealt with.
We know that too many New Yorkers cycle between the hospital and homelessness.
We can't stand for that in New York City. The subway system's way too important. The subway system has to be there for individuals to be able to take in safety and predictability.
Governor Kathy Hochul cited that mental health crisis in announcing plans to spend $1 billion to revamp care and change New York's involuntary commitment laws.
We need to ensure that those who are suffering from severe mental illness are getting the care they need, and we're also protecting the innocent bystanders on our subways and on our streets.
For many, it's an endless cycle going from the street to the emergency room, then back out onto the street.
So, in a surprising twist, the 4 surviving men who assaulted an armed homeless man are now the ones facing justice. But what nobody's talking about is this incident took place inside a subway car, and that's where New Yorkers have been begging for more security for the last year. Not the entrances where police and troops have been stationed. Plus, the entire time incidents like this have been going on, we've been told by our leaders to stop imagining things because overall subway crime is down. But the reality is that since 2020, assaults and other types of crime down here remain elevated to levels everyone who's ever ridden the train knows are unacceptable. But the mayor understands this, which is why he's now risking the wrath of New York City progressives by removing homeless people from the subway if they pose a danger to themselves or others. Something activists say is immoral and wrong. However, it's hard to see how allowing someone who's in need of rehab to wander the subway with a weapon, believing the resources to help them don't exist, is even close to compassionate. And that brings us to the real reason why we've got a subway system that's dangerous. Neglecting people, that's not compassionate, and instead it just encourages those who need help to come down here and fend for themselves. But now that riders are terrified and elections are coming up, something's finally being done to try and save the subway and those who call it home. However, with the NYPD chronically short-staffed, it's hard to see what New York's finest will be able to do in the face of a justice system that has stacked the deck against common sense solutions to crime and lawlessness by releasing people with dozens of prior arrests who end up right back on the streets where they continue to be a threat to themselves and others. And that's why, as you're about to see, our mayor has decided to start removing homeless people from the subway, in some cases against their will. So here we are at the 34th Street Herald Square subway station, and as you can see, this new crackdown, it's real, it's happening. In fact, this entire area where we are right now used to be a place where people sadly were trying to reside as if it were their home or apartment. And even though activists say that allowing people to stay here is the right thing to do because everyone's free and this is a public place, neglecting people and letting them think that this is where they have to sleep every night, that's not compassionate either.
This young man, homeless and disheveled, surrounded by a joint response team made up of 2 NYPD officers, a social worker, and a nurse. After protesting for several minutes, the handcuffs stay on. One of the many involuntary removals the Adams administration conducts on a weekly basis in the New York City.
So, 1 month ago, before crime spiked in the subway, this particular station had 96 people living in it. The New York Post referred to it as an underground wasteland, and right over here, you can see the area where people were residing. This little area, which is the former entrance to a mall, which is now closed. And the reason city officials are now doubling their efforts to help those who might think this is the only place for them to stay to leave is because the city does have shelters that are available for people, and they're not in a noisy, loud, dangerous public transit system. But here's the problem. These efforts can only go so far, which is why the New York City subway is still the site of an ongoing humanitarian crisis. But before we get into why this new plan may ultimately fail to help the homeless and make the subway less safe, you've got to realize that overall unchecked lawlessness down here is the reason we find ourselves in a dangerous environment. For example, it's illegal to carry a knife in the New York City public transit system, but dangerous individuals are down here carrying them and nothing is being done about it. And that's bad news because the individual in this photo was armed and went after other commuters randomly one afternoon.
Why'd you do it, Jamar? What's that, sir? Anything to say to the victim, sir?
So the man in this video, he's 52 years old. He's now been arrested 88 times, and allowing him to live in the subway was bad for him, and it was bad for everybody else. And he's not alone. There's still many other people down here who need assistance and may not even know that assistance is out there. He was apparently well known to law enforcement, and security camera footage shows him carrying a weapon at various points, which kind of makes you wonder what these cameras are for if they record crimes and nobody does anything about them. But people carrying weapons, that's just one type of lawlessness taking place down here. If you happen to look down at your feet, if you dare, you'll see a very good reason not to walk around with open-toed shoes, a reason that could also contribute to a lot of the problems that people are experiencing down here. Regardless, the lawless environment down here is why the mayor knows his plan is facing an uphill battle. Yet he's trying to work within the restricted confines of New York City's laws to help the homeless, although some say those laws tie the hands of justice so they can't help anyone or keep anyone safe. Something riders down here are reminded of every single time they take the train.
There has been a pervasive misunderstanding of the law in New York.
Brian Stetton, the mayor's senior advisor on severe mental illness, says response teams perform about 130 involuntary removals a week under a broader interpretation that determines whether a person is a quote, danger to themselves or...
So, is Mayor Adams perfect? No, nobody is. But this is the first time in recent memory anybody in charge has tried to interpret New York's progressive laws in a non-progressive manner. But now the problem is that if someone's in need of mental health treatment, how do you help them enter a program if they aren't interested in it? And that's why the mayor is now fighting for this Supportive Interventions Act, which would apparently make that process easier. Apparently, right now, if somebody's in trouble, the best the city can do is to involuntarily commit that person for a period of 72 hours, after which that person will regain their freedom, and if they're in a bad place, may go on to continue being a danger to themselves and others. And that's why critics say you've got people with dozens of arrests in the subway who keep coming back here, and no one can stop them. They're in a destructive cycle, and that cycle leads to elevated levels of danger down here that terrify riders. And as you're about to see, the current way city officials are forced to go about helping people who are down here and may not know they need help isn't really working.
It's a direct response to the public's palpable concern over innocent people being victimized above and below ground, from suspect Ramon Rivera to Sebastian Zapata, who's accused of walking out of a homeless shelter and then setting a woman on...
So the way this outreach program works now is law enforcement officers accompany aid workers who make contact with people who look like they need help. They're looking for people who appear to be incapacitated, sleeping, or just unable to care for themselves. And if they see somebody who's obviously in that predicament, the right thing that any of us would do for a family member of ours who was in that spot would be to go out of our way to make an intervention and help them, and that's what the city's trying to do. Like, just look at this place. If any of us knew that someone that we cared about was living down here and didn't know that there was help out there for them, or that anybody cared about them, we'd be down here in a heartbeat, pleading with them, doing what we could, dragging them out if necessary to get them to a place where we could help them. That's compassion. However, the reason you've got elevated levels of crime, elevated levels of danger, and riders who are scared is because for a long time we thought compassion was just letting someone sleep on the grounds over here. Which, as you're about to see, unfortunately still happens, as the rules New York City has handicap law enforcement and our aid workers so that they can't make a difference. And sadly, that's why things down here are continuing to get worse.
The hardest thing is obviously finding products to sell and then getting authorized to sell those products. So with Ecom Authority, they've been able to do that.
We're going to set.
So here we are in another level of this very same station, and as you can see, the humanitarian crisis going on down here is still here. And this is in spite of the mayor announcing a new $650 million push to help that crisis.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
It's not me in that car, you know?
I can't believe it. Oh my God.
It's kind of a time to not really know what to do, so.
At random too, why? I don't get it.
Don't have any answer. How old is Brian?
19. He's 19.
He's 19.
What's going on, man?
Cooperate? I am going to cooperate.
Okay, so parents have some concerns of some stuff they may have found in your room?
Yeah, I believe so.
And what would it be?
A human head and hands.
Like, for real human head and hands?
Yes.
From?
That fellow who went missing recently.
Which fellow was that?
Warren Brown.
Warren Brown? When did he go missing?
The night of the 27th.
The night of the 27th? Okay, and how did you end up with him?
I murdered him.
With what?
A knife.
Why would you have done that?
I've always wondered what murder felt like.
2021, Grand Junction, Colorado. It's the first day of March, and Warren Barnes,
A 69-year-old man known to hang outside of Monique's Bridal and Formal Wear on Main Street in downtown Grand Junction hasn't been seen since Saturday, February 27th.
If you've ever been downtown, you guys would see him. He
looks
walks
familiar.
Main Street.
Yeah,
he's always.
Brett probably knows him if he's talking to him.
He's always on Main Street, just with his backpack, just walking and coming down to the shop to sit in his chair, pretty much.
How do you know Warren?
I own Monique's Bridal downtown, and I give him a chair to sit and read his books.
Is it a homeless gentleman?
He's not homeless. He stays in a place. He pays for a room every day. He comes back in the shop because we keep his chair inside the shop to deter other people from sitting in it behind my shop.
The woman speaking with police is Monique Lenati. Her business has been mainstay in downtown Grand Junction since 1995. Monique and her daughter spent time getting to know Warren over the 4 years he's been a fixture behind her shop. He loves reading, feeding birds, and eating Subway sandwiches. To outsiders, he may have appeared unhoused or out of work, simply because he wore the same clothes every day. But Warren is different.
He works for a company that does just like temp agency, and they were the ones that actually contacted me because he's never missed work, and they know that he sits behind my shops.
So every morning it's around 6?
Yeah.
Without fail?
Without fail.
7 days a week?
Yes. He is there every morning.
All by himself?
Yeah.
Those who know him quickly take a shine to his kind and gentle soul.
And he's the nicest guy ever. Rough looking, but he is the nicest guy.
And
he buys Pall Mall Red 100s every day and a donut.
Warren Barnes is quiet and never bothers anyone.
Dentists hate when you do this, but they can't stop you. This new $100 dental device uses cutting-edge ultrasonic technology and has the cleaning power of a high-precision laser. And its unprecedented success is leaving dentists scrambling. It has sold over 2 million units in the last 30 days, all without the help of Amazon or Walmart. It's called Sono Sparkle, and it's been featured on Fox, ABC, and NBC a few times. But it could be banned soon with...
He passes the time reading books, so the locals dubbed him the Reading Man.
But I know he goes to the library a lot as well, because he, like I said, he reads books. Loves to read. Loves to read.
And Warren has a routine, one you could swear by. So when he didn't show up to work on Monday morning, March 1st, his employers at the temp agency were concerned.
what raised concern with you today to report him missing?
Because the place people already called to see if I had seen him because he didn't show up for work, and he's never once not shown up for work in the 4 years he's been working for them.
All right.